Welcome to the Garage Network podcast. Join us and the occasional special guest as we discuss everything automotive, from fixing cars as a technician, owning an automotive workshop or business, overall work-life balance, and even the occasional laugh. In this episode of TGN Talks, we were joined by Gavin Crib from Kangan Institute. We discussed some of the awesome stuff that they are doing within the institute and also discuss his passion for the automotive industry.
G'day, guys. Welcome to TGN Talks. What's wrong, Jeff? Why are you laughing?
Why are you laughing?
We would like to welcome Gavin Crib. He's the Educational Manager of the Automotive section of Kangan Institute. G'day, Gavin. How you going, mate?
I'm going well. How you doing, guys?
Really good, really good.
Very
All
well.
better for seeing you.
So,
I'm a smooth talker, man.
slick.
Before we got into this, Jeff made it very clear that he's quite envious of your haircut. So he's actually gone away and replicated it as best as he could.
Well, when I first met Gavin, I had dreadlocks, and I just really like, he kind of looks like a mean Vin Diesel. Does that make sense? But he's a bit lean,
I see it now.
like Vin Diesel's a bit too big for me. But Gavin was just perfect.
So you prefer him a little bit smaller than Vin Diesel?
Well, yeah, I don't want people breaking chairs.
or breaking you.
Yeah.
I'm glad Gavin said that, not me. I'm about to. Yeah.
No. I do think you need to get a bit. You need to get a bit closer there. Gavin. Yeah. Well, we can have some grooming tips when we're next to each other. I think that's maybe we may come down and see you guys in the new year. Failing that, with AA.
Yeah, well, that sounds cool. We'll wax each other, perhaps.
Anyway,
Now, look, we will have to record that purely for educational purposes, just to ensure that we get just so we get some good techniques for the Garage Network members to see how a bald man should be waxing another bald man. I think it's very important. I'm
all up for waxing, but Costa's going to feel left out.
Yeah, there's a problem.
No.
Costa has a problem.
Guys, I'm happy to sit in the corner and watch. It's what I normally do, anyways.
So anyway,
I try and keep the crying to a minimum.
Yeah, but hang on a minute. You only cry after you. Anyway, we won't go there.
Yeah.
So, Gavin, what's your background? Obviously, you're at Kangan now, but what's your tell us a bit about yourself.
So,
what's your name and where do you come from?
So yeah, I guess like pretty much most TAFEs, did a trade. So I came into the trade sort of early '90s. Did my time at Ford dealers, predominantly, in City and Geelong. Did my trade school in Geelong. Worked through, love it. So obviously, and everyone in the industry loves the industry. We wouldn't do it otherwise. So worked through there. Moved up to Gold Coast for about 5 years or so in the 2000s-ish. From there, kind of dealer hopped predominantly. Sort of worked from one to the other. End up with a Jeep brand. And surprisingly enough, back then, early 2000s, was Daimler-ized at the time, and I was a foreman at Gold Coast Jeep, and they were really good with tech training. So there'd be a new model introduction, and there would be 6 separate courses on a new model. There'd be body electrical, there'd be driveline, there'd be engine, there'd be chassis, all that sort of stuff. And they did that well, and they'd bring in teachers from the US and all that sort of stuff. And I'm back at that point, I'm like, I wouldn't mind being that dude, at the front of the room. So, in that time I did back then a TAA, whatever the teaching qual was, to get into the TAFE sort of network.
Yeah.
And sort of just sat on that for a while, kept doing what I did at the dealer in Dealerland. I really enjoyed it. So sort of coming from Ford was, sort of, like I said, mid 90s or so, a lot of general what you'd expect to see in the Ford network, a lot of rear mains, front pump seals, all the all the sort of the bread and butter that Falcon sort of gave us, which was really cool. Moving across to the Jeep brands, as you can imagine, there's a whole different kettle of fish, and I'm sure a lot of people are eye rolling when you hear the word Jeep.
Yeah,
Which, we're similar in many ways, but I kind of liked it. It was weird, So you just had to put your hat on backwards, think like an American, and and just do everything back to front. So your wiring size back to front, everything's back to front. You go back to your imperial measurements and all that sort of stuff. But it was a busy workshop, and I hadn't built a diff, after 4 or 5 years of being in the trade, because we didn't have those sort of problems, in Fordland or so. So getting confronted with having to do 2 or 3 diff repairs in a day with whatever tools you had was kind of cool, So and, a lot of mechanical stuff, so transfer cases and all that sort of jazz, and getting through that. Quite enjoyed that, So I sat on this teaching qual for what seemed like an eternity. So I moved back out of Queensland back into Melbourne because I missed reasonable food. So came back into dealer land again in that sort of space. And at that point, I actually had applied for a couple of jobs with OEMs in the teaching sort of area, and essentially none of them wanted to know you unless you'd had TAFE or teaching experience prior. So that's what within probably a month or two, I've sort of put the feelers out, and I got into private RTOs back in the mid 2000s. There was a heap of private RTOs, as a lot of people probably know, predominantly international, and sort of got into that space with a really good crew of people, and worked through there for about 3 or 4 years or so, and quite enjoyed that. So the idea was sort of to step into OEM training land, but I kind of enjoyed it. So we're in a really good rhythm in that sort of private space, and then a job came up again, sort of full circle back into Chrysler for a tech trainer, and so I went through that, and it ticked the boxes for them at that moment in time. I'd done the master tech stuff and had training experience and so on, so it was a really good fit. So got into predominantly apprentice training in the Chrysler space, and put together apprenticeship programs for a while. I was there for around 6 years in various sort of after sales roles, district service manager training, anything after sales ish, sort of all that sort of area. And during that period, I worked with all the TAFEs, so we're lucky enough to have a apprenticeship program in Brisbane, one in Sydney, one in Melbourne, and the one in Melbourne was closer to Chrysler office, so I spent more time there basically. So got to know those guys. The job presented itself, and it was attractive for the fact that if you work for an OEM, none of the OEMs are going to talk to you ever. So they're all very much cloak and dagger. That they all believe they're the first to do something. So it was in a silo in many ways, and so the opportunity to work with multiple brands across multiple trades, was appealing. And so I've been there now, kicking on probably close to 8 years.
Okay.
And the beauty is it's not just light vehicle. I get to work with the motorcycle trades, the Caterpillars of the world, the heavy vehicles, paint and paddle, so all those sort of various different areas. And so we've got a team of 65-ish automotive trainers.
Wow, that's impressive.
And so it's a big operation, so around 3,000 auto apprentices, I suppose we'd have.
Yeah, wow.
Give or take. That's so we're reasonably good at what we do. Some things we do really, really well. And like all TAFEs, some areas we struggle for knowledge or resources or support from industry, and it's that continuous cycle, So we're thriving, but we're continually trying to chase, being better, I suppose. So it's so far so good. I'm still there. It's probably the longest job I've had. So something must be, reasonably good, that's for sure. So
it's because part of it's because you've got good food in Melbourne. I'm not sure about that. I've been to Melbourne and I've been to Brisbane, but just going back a few seconds and support from industry. What do you think you need? You guys need to be better.
It's a good question. So it's hard because we like I said, we've got a really amazing team of guys. Like I said, 65 or so people. They're all been through the trade. We all love the industry, but we all, over a period of time, we get in our rhythm. But you can't know what's happening in the industry unless you're in it. So you need to be in a workshop day in, day out over a period of months to see what a trend might be, or to hone skills, or to see what's, you know, emerging and so on. So we get to a point where we deliver Brakes 101, but we won't see some of this sort of cool tech that's coming through because we don't get that exposure. So it's hard in some ways because we don't know what questions to ask, because we don't know what's always happening. But we often have the chicken or egg situation where, you know, if student A is underperforming, you know, is it the TAFE's responsibility or is it the employer's responsibility? And it's both, you know. So, and that's where we hope we can get industry in and the employers in to help. You know, where are some of these shortfalls? You know, what can we do better? You know, so we're always asking the questions.
It's good that you're doing that. You find a weakness, because we can't all be perfect. You know, it's just impossible unless your name's Peter Leondis. But you know, you found your fault, you and you're trying to deal with it. I mean, it's not really a fault as such; it's just natural. You know, you don't control what they're doing when they're of work placement, and you know, and you're limited in the resources. You can't have Ferraris in every day. You know, looking at different brake styles, inboard brakes on all Jaguars and things like that. But no, it's good, and it's impressive, and you know, anything that we can do to help, you know, always feel to reach out. If we can, I don't know, make people bring the odd nice car, we'll try and do that. But
yeah,
because ultimately we want these people to stay in the industry. You know, you're going to do the best job that you can to train them, and we want them to stay in the industry. So that was going to be something that I was going to touch on. What do you think we can do? You know, some of these guys who may get qualified, how do we keep them in the trade also? Because, you know, I think a lot of people go to the pub with their mates and they see the, you know, cost of a plumber. You know, I mean, seen what cost of charges anyway, may as well be a plumber. But you know, people discuss different trades. So what do you think we can do to keep them in there? And I suppose that's a question for both of you, really. But especially you, Gavin.
It is. I think even things like this, you know, I reckon in the last probably 5 years or so, the auto industry is kind of kinder to itself. You know, we're now, you know, there's things like TGN. There are networks where people actually, you know, we're out. You know, we want to give each other a leg up because we want everyone to do well. You know, there's enough work for everyone as it is. It's
if anything, too much.
Yeah, in some ways, you know. So it's you know, the apprentice model is pretty good. You know, like we've had people go, you know, globally looking at different training models and the rest of it, and it all, you know, it always comes back to the Australian model is pretty good. You know, so but you know, we let's say we're teaching clutches or something of that nature. You know, so in a perfect world, you know, you deliver the unit. You know, he or she would go back to work and then bang out 3 or 4 clutches in the next month. But, you know, sure enough, those jobs aren't going to come in, you know. So, and most people in the trade learn by repetition or doing stuff with their hands, you know. So I could go to, you know, to a conference or a seminar and I'll be honest, I'll dial out after a couple of hours, you know, even though, and that's just one day. You know, these people are trade school for a week. And they're doing, you know, a number of different units and so on. And if they don't go back and be able to repeat or hone that, it's really difficult. So
use it or lose it type of scenario.
Yeah. You know, so
and I think especially when you look at the people that get into the industry, generally the ones that are coming into the industry, the guys and girls that are coming in, it's generally because their passion is to work with their hands, to, you know, solve problems. It's generally not to sit in a class and go through theoretical, although it's super important because you've got to understand how something works before you can fix it. I think it's very important that you have to actually have some sort of understanding that it is homework, it is, you know, classroom learning as well. But then, you know, if there's no connection between the theory and the practical when they go back into the workspace, how do you reinforce it? It's in and out sometimes, you know. And I did a very short stint with a TAFE program for Volkswagen in Sydney, And we did see it. We saw it where, especially when you start looking at manufacturers where, one of the modules are repairing clutches, like what new car, they don't even think they make manuals anymore. Like, how are they going to go and do a clutch on a 1-year-old something, whatever it's going to be, right? It just, how do they reinforce it? Like, I think the guys that I was working with were really good. They gave them heaps of in the workshop exposure, and they had to take gearbox out and stuff, which is very cool of them. They put the effort in. But the reality is, when they're in the workspace, it's a little bit out of the educator's control. And I think that's where us as employers, where a lot of us doing a bad job, because we've got to start looking at these apprentices as not as cheap labor. I think that's what happens. They get targeted as cheap labor rather than they're there to learn. Like, there's a reason why, they're in that stage of their career, and it's because we need to be doing the effort to teach them. Just because they're good at doing oil changes does not mean they get stuck on oil changes. Or just because they're good at one task does not mean they get stuck on one task. Like, yes, there'll be periods where they're not profitable 100%, but you know what? That's why they're not very expensive to keep on board. Investment on the business's side. That's what I think anyway. That's how I try to treat the apprentices I've ever dealt with, and I think they come out of the other end very good.
No, and I agree. And there's quite a, and it's getting better, but there's been a reasonably large disconnect from what TAFE does and what the employer knows that they do, and what the limitations are and the complexity behind it and so on. And your example there with clutches, and there's little or no manuals out there at the moment. Our suspension units and so on, we've still got to teach torsion bars. Try to find a car with a torsion bar.
Quite fun one. Especially when they start going into the dealer space where look, some of the best techs I've met have been dealer techs. Straight up, they've been one of the most best problem solving techs I've met. But the reality is, when are they going to see a torsion bar at I don't know, Toyota, maybe Toyota a little bit, but at some Audi, at an Audi workshop? They're just not.
It's not going to happen, So, and some of these are core subjects. So, the TAFE doesn't get to choose the core subjects. Right. They're dictated by the government, and the outcomes, So some of these, and that's where it gets sort of challenging for, everyone. The employers go, this is irrelevant. Why are you teaching this? So, and it kind of causes a little bit of friction, which is just natural, So, And from what I've seen, most, and myself included, you'd be good at fixing stuff, and then suddenly they'll put you in, behind a counter because you've been good at fixing stuff. Well, you don't have any HR skills, you don't know how to employ people, you don't know how to mentor people, and nor should you, because you've never been shown. And so a lot of, especially the smaller independent shops, haven't got the resources to really mentor and support, nor should they even know how, because they've never been shown. So that's kind of what
no one's taught us.
No, that's right.
No one's taught us how to teach an apprentice. Like the biggest takeaway I got from my little stint was I learned a little bit of how to teach a bit, and I was like, man, I've been doing a lot of things incorrect. Like, I should not be getting frustrated at someone because the second time around they haven't got it. Like, you forget that once upon a time that was you. Absolutely. Trying to do drum breaks on on something wacky, like we forget very quickly, because we're 20 years in and it's second nature. We forget that there's no familiarity for some of these guys coming in, and girls.
Absolutely. And back on Jeff's question on how do you retain them, there's no silver bullet, so, and that's where I think it's more, everybody getting on the same page.
So I think what was said before was a mentor in the workplace. I think I think if you've got an apprentice, is that the correct word to say it now? An apprentice,
that'll work.
A junior mechanic. Maybe that's a PC, but if they've got somebody that they can talk to and ask questions on the shop floor, instead of maybe being barked at, they're too busy, crank the jobs in and out, maybe I think it's important to be taken under somebody's wing and, shown some love. It's like a life lesson. It's not just about fixing cars. I think look, It's awesome. You're not just fixing cars. If you fix a car, you can fix a washing machine. You fix a washing machine, fix your oven, fix your TV. You know what I mean? It's there's some great life lessons in this industry, and it might not look as fancy as being a joiner or a builder or something like that, but I think it's awesome. I think there's good money to be in this industry. Yeah. I think it's really gonna change a little bit, but not as much as what people think. There's a lot of people are scared about EVs, and do you know what? Don't worry about it. Like, do you think EVs going to stay forever? Nah. They'll work something out. Yeah, and there's always going to be. Look, I dare say there's going to be combustion engines for quite a while. So I think we're all okay. But I'm still kind of going off track there. There's good money to be earned. If you like working on computers, yes, you can do that. If you like turning spanners, yes, you can do that. There's so many. If you want to paint cars, you can do this and this. We're not just talking about mechanical. It's going to the body repair as well, and you can do what you want in this industry. It's sensational, and there's some bloody good people in it as well.
It can take you anywhere. It's it really can, and I'm probably we've all been lucky enough to have a good career in auto, and it keeps on giving you. As long as you stay in it, it'll keep giving to you. So people go overseas and all that sort of stuff, and I agree. Most of the guys that I work with, me included, we've all rewired our house. We've all re-stumped a house and all that sort of stuff because
go to Gavin's house, full inspection, and floorboards, chocolate block connectors everywhere.
But it's such a technical job that you have an appreciation and understanding of your chemistry, physics, all these sort of different things. Whereas water flows down, and there's only 3 wires in a house, so
and they don't move; they stay there. They're stationary.
Yeah,
there's no wiggling.
Yeah, that's right. It's pretty easy. It's just so
pretty simple, isn't it?
They're trained. It'd be great if there was higher remuneration, because I think that obviously that's a reason why we lose a lot of people. And as you said, the plumbers and the chippies and stuff. And I was the same. I was on the first or second year, you'd be $150 a week or whatever it was back then, and your plumber mate's got a twin cab ute, and he's almost bought a house. By the time he's third year, it's difficult to compete with that. But the longevity's there. So so it definitely is an industry that looks after you if you look after it.
Yeah, I think, and I will touch on something you said, Jeff, which I think is super important, the whole mentorship, apprenticeship aspect of it. We have to remember as well as employers, look at the age that these apprentices are generally coming in at, right? They're coming in at a time where they themselves are evolving as actual human beings. Like they're, between 17 years old to, early 20s is probably your average age of an apprentice, right? And at that age, if you wind back and think about where you were at that age compared to where you are now, both mentally, maturity-wise, but
you couldn't even discuss it, could you? You couldn't. We couldn't sit in and discuss what we were doing at that age.
When I was 18, rather not talk about that. Yeah, but the reality is, right? That's it's so easy to forget. When you're mid-30s, mid-40s, whatever age you're going to be, or older, and say, they're not focusing. Well, hold on. Well, how were you when you were 18, mate? Like there was more important things than just, fixing a car sometimes. It's just what it is. So you've got to, and I think that's where, again, it's important for the employee to be a bit more understanding. I think it's very important because I think the skill shortage, we've done this. Like the people that have done this are my generation, the generation before me, and the generation before that. I think that is why we have this issue now, because we built the stigma. Like no one else did it for us, we did it, and I mean it's on us. But the good thing about that is also on us to change it. We can absolutely change that stigma as well. It's not a one-sided thing, and I think it is changing. I think it's getting better. I think it's getting better.
Do you guys still think the craze to find techs is still as big as what it was 5 years ago?
Which, sorry?
Trying to find techs, do you think it's still as big as it was 5 years ago?
The difficulty in finding them?
Yeah,
I think so.
I wouldn't know because they're already employed by the time they come to me. You know,
It's
interesting. We this year we had a huge year in enrollments. You know, we had one of the biggest enrollment years, and you know, and not just us. You know, so the other TAFEs and so on seem to have similar trends that are all sort of had bigger enrollments, which is a good thing. It means there's apprentices out there; they're putting them on. Probably also means that we all know there's more work out there. You know, it's not unusual to hear people with a week or two booking times and so on. So I think people are confident they've got enough work for an apprentice. We're finding it hard to find teachers, and that we're drawing from the same pool. We've been advertising.
You're not allowed to poach. You can't do any poaching on air, Gavin. It's no, sorry, mate. I'm really joking.
It's a good gig, So
yeah.
It's
a good career progression.
I suppose that's a valid question, because you know what, you are going to get the guys that maybe have abused themselves, not using lifting equipment when they should have been, and maybe they do want to evolve into a teaching career. So is it just a case of picking up the phone? Hi, Gavin, I've got the same haircut as you. I'll see you on Monday morning. Yeah. Is it just as easy as that?
And
I'll just send you a map, and I'll see you on Monday, and I'll buy you a coffee.
Just send me a map. Yeah. Okay. Done.
Almost. So there's a basic qualification for teaching, which is a certificate 4 in training and assessment, which is a 6-month course. It's interesting. It's always been the minimum requirement for teaching. It doesn't teach you how to teach. It teaches you about the framework and compliance, and the piece behind it sort of builds all of those frameworks and so on. So you have an understanding of why you're assessing and what you're assessing and so on. But it doesn't teach you anything about classroom management, or how to be a teacher, or how do you apply Ohm's law in front of 20 people. It doesn't give you any of that. But it's there's such a shortage that we're working on different ways of getting people in under scholarships. If we've got people it's probably no different to you guys. If you've got someone who comes across who's got the right attitude, you can teach the rest. So 100%. And we're the same. So we're often our interviews, they become like TGN podcasts. You get way off topic. And you talk about, what do you do? What inspires you, and what do you like, and that sort of stuff. And that's sort of, what we use in a lot of our interviews, because we want people. We want people who, who like the industry, who have similar values. The rest, we'll work it out. So, the teaching quality. Yeah. If anyone wants the teaching role, just I'll put my email in the chat, and
he did it.
No, but in reality, I think that's fair. Like if there is people that maybe want to explore that avenue, absolutely, I think they should reach out and see, because I think we need the right people. Like, as much as it's not, I wouldn't call it perking, but we need the right people at the coalface of teaching. I think it needs to be the right people with the right attitude. Because at the end of the day, they are teaching the future. They're going to be teaching our future employers and future business owners.
And if they are ready for a change, if you've been a tech for 25 years, and you maybe had the same job for 25 years, and you're ready for a change,
25-year-old teacher, mate, beautiful. Yeah, if they've got the right attitude, they don't have to be 55, 60 years old to get into it. I'm sure they.
Well, I was just using that for an example. I was trying
to get people your age.
I don't want to be giving all the techs that listen to this, both of them, the idea that maybe there's something else. Don't stay at the shop that you're at. If you're happy, stay there. If you're not, that's maybe when you do need to consider something else.
Yeah, 100%. It's a good.
Sorry, go on. It's a good
industry, and I think it's not hugely different to what I felt when I was in workshops. So. Although we're not in the workshop day in, day out, we still get to sort of rub shoulders with people who are. It's the beauty is, you'll get a third year that comes in. There's always going to be one or two in the group that know more than you.
Yeah.
And that's absolutely, so that's really cool. So, and you've got to try and leverage that, not be threatened by it, and thrive on it, because there's so much happening in industry. whether it's teaching or running a workshop, there's always some good things in there, so there's always some gold.
I spotted it yesterday at a workshop, which I won't name, but I actually called the owner. He'd nipped out picking parts up, and the attitude of his two members of staff, and one I wasn't too keen on when he, young kid, he was full of himself, and I think the actual other tech, who's only slightly older than him, has accidentally mentored him because he was quite sensible, and I had to call him, and I'm like, dude, I said, your two guys, I said, they're full of passion. They've got ideas. They want to make you, they want to help make the business better. I mean, it's a good business anyway, but, they've got ideas and, maybe they're scared to tell you this. I said, so I'm going to tell you. And he really appreciated the feedback, but it always gives me a warming feeling when people give a shit. There are people in the trade that, do you know what? Just another wheel bearing, board. This is a shit box. This car's shit. Yep. Maybe they need to go and drive a bus, but it always gives me a warming feeling when we see passion.
And that's what I think the industry is now doing better. The like-minded people are sort of starting to pull together and all pull in that right direction. And if you're around that sort of group, you love it. You're talking about what you enjoy. So it's in the veins, isn't it?
I think that's where we're super lucky, Jeff. I think because we're surrounded by pretty awesome people. I think in the garage has already done that for us. He's brought a lot of us together.
Yep.
And I think that we forget sometimes there's people out there that may not be in the same mindset as we are.
Yeah,
but and that's fine.
That's fine. That's fine. Everyone can be with
not every bolt that you're going to undo is going to undo. Some are going to snap, and that's fine. You've got to have the rough with the smooth. And you know what? Idiots can always be idiots. That's fine.
Now, can I ask, Gavin, just to go back on the Kangan side of things? So I've been lucky enough for you actually taking a bit of a walkthrough, and I think you guys have some pretty special stuff going on there. And when I say special, I haven't seen this at any other college/institute/TAFE before. Do you want to maybe run through a few things that you guys are doing there that is probably a little bit different than your traditional college, institute, TAFE situation?
Yeah, 100%. We're very lucky, So it goes back mid-90s. In mid-90s, they designed the place, and not dissimilar to most capital cities. There used to be a whole bunch of TAFEs in the suburbs, and it made sense to bring them all to one centre, so they're not duplicating, processing, enrolments, administration, and all that sort of stuff. So sort of bringing them to that one area. So mid-90s it was designed. The first build was finished in 2006, so they sort of started building sort of early 2000s, and there was a second stage to the building which was finished about 2010. And it's the biggest auto training, dedicated auto training space probably in the world. Someone can fact check that, but definitely something.
No, we don't do fact checks here, mate. In the universe.
And we're lucky in many ways because it's it was good timing, good government in that era that invested in TAFE and vocational training. So we've got 10,000 squares of workshop space, wow. And we're lucky enough to have 22 auto qualifications under one roof. So like I said, we've got marine stays, we've got motorcycle stays, we've got auto X, we got paint, we got panel, we've got EV, we've got obviously your light vehicle, heavy vehicle, mobile plant, which is your excavators and so on, and behind each of those sort of study areas or qualifications, we're really blessed to have good industry support, so whether it be OEMs or peak auto groups or something of that nature to help support, so back on that comment that you made, Jeff, on how do you retain them? Well, you just all got to be part of the solution. It's as simple as that.
But I think you just worded it absolutely perfectly. Yeah. Part of the solution, not part of the problem. Yeah. It's that's brilliant. James Dillon said to me, "There's a reason why the windscreen is bigger than the rear view mirror. It's just keep going forwards. It's be positive, and I like that. I want to come now. I've drove past it. I think Costa put the place out. But yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to starting my job on Monday.
I didn't think they'd let you in with that sort of haircut and the clothes you're wearing. So.
If you've got a pulse, I'll let you in.
Oh dear. So yes, 42 minutes in and stop. No, it's awesome. So if an idea like how many you said how big the place is, but like how many hoists have you got in there? Have you got any fancy equipment that might draw a future trainer in that?
Yes.
Sell it to me, Gavin.
Oh, all right, here we go. We got. I have no idea how many hoists we have. We probably have 15-ish. I think off the top of my head, we've got about probably 10 workshops. We're split across 2 levels. So we've got a motorsport area as well. We've got the dedicated area. So obviously your paint and panel are going to have paint and panel infrastructure and paint booths and so on. So you're not going to have your mechanical streams going over through there. My cat's just coming to say good day. We've probably got 60 or 70 cars in the building. Yeah. So it gives you an idea of the size of the building itself. Where probably our most recent development, I suppose, or infrastructure build would have been a dedicated EV lab. So we sort of cut the ribbon on that, I think sort of March, April this year. We're kind of bitten off in some ways more than we can chew. That's more future proofing. So we've got equipment in there, which is, your full diagnosis and repair of EVs and stuff. And we just haven't got the numbers in our car park or the maturity of the car park where they're wearing out, So
yeah, of course,
but you're ready for it.
We're ready for it, and we'll learn, I suppose, as the industry learns. And it's actually, I tell this story a bit, but EV space is a good example of where we're learning to look after the industry more than we have in the past, because TAFEs, at the end of the day, their bread and butter is apprentices, and that's what they do all day, every day, and they've done it for 100 years, and most apprentices, like you said, cost between 18, 22 or so, and that cohort everybody's comfortable with because that's what they've always done, and fast forward to mid last year or beginning of this year, all of the EV training we're doing is post-trade, so your candidates in there could have been, in the business for 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, running their own businesses and so on and so forth. And there was this interesting sort of reservation when we're building the capability on, our teaching staff not feeling 100% comfortable to stand in front of qualified techs.
Of course.
Because, I've been in a classroom for 5 years. These guys are going to eat me alive because I don't know, what the latest, technology is. And what sort of interesting on the flip side is the participants coming in have the same reservations, because, you've got workshop owner A next to workshop owner B. He goes, old mate up the road, he's going to tear me, a new one because he knows so much more than I do. And so there's these strange reservations, as soon as people sit down and do this EV training, then after, as you sort of said before, after half the course, they're going, it's just a glorified fridge motor. Anyone can fix this. Or, there's less wires and less moving parts than we've ever seen, so it's going to be a little bit simpler. So, so I think one good thing about the technology, change in what we're seeing in the auto industry is it is bringing different people forward. It's what people want to see. They want to see a laptop, next to a car, and hopefully we're going to be attracting school leavers that have they're looking at computers or they're looking at technology as a career, so we're trying to step away from the old term mechanic and call them technicians, and trying to wipe away the grease monkey sort of stigma.
The knuckle draggers. It isn't that anymore.
So and I think the change in technology is going to help us shift that. So basically the latest addition, I suppose, to the space was that the EV area, and all the TAFEs across the country have the same problem. To deliver EV, you're meant to have experience in it. So that under our compliance and under our
how do they get that experience?
We're meant to show our auditor experience in repairing it and being in an EV environment before teaching it. And how can you when the cars aren't on the road?
We're not even really fixing them yet, really. The reality is we're not really fixing them. I haven't not even done nothing on an EV, especially.
Maybe some hybrids, but are in the independent world, but I think it's rare. I'm not saying it doesn't happen, but I think maybe some dealers have got some of these guys locked because we don't think the independent world can repair these EVs, but actually can. Yeah. And probably to an extremely high standard as well. Yeah. There's an EV and hybrid network now with TAT. They've gone hard with this training and opening that up to the public, and I think that's great. Yeah. And just nipping back, just talking about TAT there, and how do we attract school leavers? I was talking to Jeff Smith. It was probably about 18 months ago. I don't know. It could have been 6 months ago. And we were discussing this, and one thing that came up was, why can't we get a load of people in the industry together? Persons, Repco, Snap-on, people that may think that they're enemies, but no, we're all actually doing the same thing. We're all trying to earn across in the automotive industry. What can we do as a whole to attract this to school leavers? And I think Peter Leondis said to me that he approached his old school. I went to school here. I'm looking for some, and they wouldn't even discuss it with it. They didn't want to discuss the automotive industry, and I'm not going to say it's disgusting, but I'm sure they've got a reason why they didn't want to do it. But maybe that reason's wrong, and I could start saying some swear words and things. But maybe like my public, they just need a bit of education as well. There's not many workshops that you're going to go into now where they've not got expensive equipment, where they're not looking after the staff, and if it aren't, they should be. Otherwise, somebody else will.
Yep.
It's not that environment anymore. So I think as an industry, it'd be great. And it was probably, Jeff Smith's probably got some kudos to play part in this, but maybe we all need to get together and do something about this, because if it does sound like maybe there is more mechanics coming in or school leavers than what I realised just listening to Gavin there. But, maybe it's better in Melbourne, maybe the Kangan Institute, maybe everyone just wants to see Gavin every day. I know I want it.
Well, actually, you're funny you're saying that. So today I was speaking to my one of my staff members, an apprentice, and we've actually got him going through a private RTO. And while I was talking about, that I'm speaking to a guy from Kangan Institute, so I was like, oh, okay. I was like, and he goes, he's quite happy where he is now in the private college that he's at now. And I was saying to him that, you are aware that if we're in Melbourne, there's no way you wouldn't be training at Kangan. Like, after going in there and seeing the infrastructure, seeing that how serious you guys are taking it, and even yourself, how passionate you are about making sure we're doing the right thing here, there would be no option. Like, there would be no option. That's where you're going, and that's just what it is, because, that's sometimes it's lost. And I think, look, it happens to everyone. Like, I think the passion, it does wear off sometimes. Yeah. So I think maybe a reignition is required every now and then. But I reckon what we've got to do is get Jeff in front of a few apprentices, and he can explain how awesome we are.
It's funny. Last week after we said we were going to do this podcast and stuff, I was thinking maybe there's a TGN apprentice stream or something of that nature. So just to bring that community back together and.
Well, look, we can work something out. We just need a bit of space at the Kangan Institute. Obviously,
little corner,
500 squares, 1,000 squares, something.
Just make sure and make sure the chairs have a decent load rating, because Jeff's been known to break a few along the way.
Saying nothing. I'm saying nothing. But do you know what? Never say never. Whatever we can do
100%.
To make it better and to encourage, I'm up for anything.
Yeah, and we're all for it. And as when you came through, so we've got this. It's a great spot. There's no doubt. There's a lot of investment. In an amazing facility, but it's still only as good as the guys in it. So if you've got good bricks and mortar, if you've got, a team that aren't passionate, your product's going to be rubbish, So, and there's ebbs and flows, So, and I think I said before that, some things we're really, really good at, and there's other areas which we're not, So I think, we're now kind of accepting that and almost celebrating it in a way by just being transparent, because it's not all one person or one size fits all. It's when it's an apprentice contract, there's 3 people who sign it, the employer, the apprentice, and the RTO. All 3 have equal part to play, and it's a difficult industry. Everyone's so busy. We run open nights and host open nights. We very rarely, if ever, would get an employer come in, because
that really sucks.
And I understand it too. Logistics. We're in the CBD. You don't want to fight peak hour if it's going to be a 6 o'clock catch up, or you're shutting your workshop at the same time, or do we do it a Saturday, or they don't know what the benefits are. Again, it's going back. They're just tradies coming through, and they're doing what they do really, really well. They're busy keeping their shop alive and their employees employed.
Yeah.
So you can't knock them for that. But there's still a disconnect, which I think is we're getting better, but we've got to keep having these conversations, and cost of the private, where you're at. If you've got one guy there who's passionate about it, it's as good as what we're going to do as well. So like I said, having a big shiny building is awesome to be in, but you just want that person who can actually connect with your apprentice, and you get that light bulb moment where they go, "Oh, that works." So, and that could be in the back of a tin shed, with a dirt floor. It doesn't necessarily have to be a high profile sort of place. So, but it's just continually having these conversations and bringing employers, closer in and being part of the solution, So, so we just got to keep driving it and keep positive, I think.
Yeah, 100%. I agree to all of that. I have nothing to add.
Well said.
That's perfectly said.
So,
can I ask, Gavin, 5-10 years down the track, we're looking to the future now. Where's Gavin? What's Gavin doing? Is he still at Kangan? And if so, what's Kangan looking like? Well, let's say perfect world, everything lined up the way you want it to, 5 to 10 years. What are we?
Yeah, there's no reason why I wouldn't be. So we're hoping to have another. We're full. We're over capacity at the moment, so we're turning away, which is in some ways a good problem to have. But also whenever you say no, that person's never going to come back and ask you a second time. So all these times that we say no, we're losing work. For the long term in some ways as well. What's interesting about Victoria is we've got 10 government TAFEs who all compete with each other for auto. So in New South Wales and Queensland, you've got TAFE Queensland or TAFE New South Wales, they're all one. Whereas we've actually got competition. So if we get it wrong, the employer's going to vote with their feet and go to the TAFE up the road. There's probably 4 or so within an hour. So they'll vote with their feet and move on. So, but fast forward 10 years, hopefully we'll have our 3rd building built. We'll be have more capacity. I genuinely love what's happening. Not necessarily just EV or hydrogen or whatever it is. The technology in the trade is cool. So
yeah.
And look, my hands are clean. So
yeah.
it's nice to be in it and not in it, if you know what I mean, as well. So
yeah.
I've got no reasons to leave because I love the industry so much. So in 10 years, it's a good question. I'm going to be in the industry some way, shape, or form. That's for sure.
Yeah, great, awesome. I think because it needs you, mate. So I think it's
it does, yeah.
Good guy to have involved, mate. I think it's very important. Like, I mean, the passion and your drive is definitely there. So I think it'd be a shame to. Oh, this is a test, so you've passed the test. So just the mark off the pass.
And we're getting better. I think I remember when I was in a trade, if you picked up a customer or a car had come to you and someone else has had a go at it and they've done a terrible job, you'd make sure the customer knows that old mate up the road screwed it up, and that doesn't help us, So you go to a doctor and go to a second doctor, he's not going to, he's just going to
never throw the bus. Yeah,
he's going to fix a problem. He's not going to have a go at the person who came through it. They look after their community, and I think we need to do that a little bit more, and I think we are, So
this is one of the reasons why the Garage Network was born, because it was a bit of that, and being from the UK, everyone was the enemy. And look, I think things have changed a little bit now, but I mean, they probably haven't. I'm probably wearing rose-tinted glasses here, but everyone was an arsehole, everyone was shit, and it was just boring, and it was a lonely place, to have a workshop. And I was from a small town. It was a lonely place, and I'm not going to say we saw a market here, but it wasn't quite like that. But it could be better, and I do think it is marginally better. And it's not just because of the Garage Network. There's other networks out there, and we evolve and mature as we get older. But I think it's an awesome space. There's what Costa was saying before. I think there's some true friendships.
Yeah.
People go out for dinner and don't all talk about cars, because it's not really. Might talk about the new tools, but maybe not cars.
Yeah, maybe talk about Rambo and stuff.
Rambo, yeah.
As I sort of alluded before, with the competition with all the tastes in Victoria, with and it's not new. It's probably 20 years or so old. The Victorian Auto Forum, which is a registered not-for-profit. I'm sort of vice president of, and we basically get all the automotive tastes together. We do it 3 times a year, and we have a 2-day conference, and we just share stuff. We go, we're in real trouble with this, and this, and we're getting really better, a lot better at collaborating. We've got interstaters coming through in that space as well, and we're hoping we'll do, have a national approach. It's just it's volunteer time, and it's a lot of work in the background. So how many extra hours have you got in a day? And we're all time poor. So and it's kind of like a TGN for TAFE, if you like. So
that's awesome.
And they're the communities that want to fix stuff and like what they do. So and rewind. When I first started 5-6 years or so ago, it was cutthroat and it wasn't just Victoria, across borders. But you'd be poaching apprentices back to your provider for revenue,
which isn't necessarily the right thing to do, is it? I might make your books look good, but pulling these youngsters from pillar to post is probably not the best thing.
Well, it's not good for the employer or the industry, is it? So you guys as employers want something consistent. You want to go, okay, well, he's going to this TAFE or this TAFE or this date or whatever. You want to have a reasonable understanding of what's going to come out, I think nationally we're all getting better at that, so there's a lot.
That's really good to hear. That's really good to hear. That's really promising. That's really good to hear.
And it's it's a 5-year burn, but I think it's burning pretty quick, so where there's a lot, I'm lucky enough to be on sort of a few committees and bits and pieces, and there are interstate partnerships, bubbling away everywhere, so
awesome.
It's hopefully that sort of paves the way for, just to make it easier for the industry as a whole.
Yeah, no, that's brilliant.
That's good news. It gives us a lot of positivity going forward. I think with collaboration, there's so much that can happen. Like working together in that sort of aspect, putting a lot of clever people together in a room, generally. You can solve most hurdles and issues realistically.
Yep. So generally speaking, there's 50% retention for apprentices. So 1 out of 2 we lose, and there's no sort of silver bullet. They've all. And it's kind of what we forget. Every one of these people, as you sort of said, they're individuals who are 18, 20 odd year old with at 18 and 20. A week is a month or a year, so they can't even see 4 years ahead. Or 100%. 100%. So getting together and getting on their level and understanding them a little bit better is, it's got to be better for everyone, doesn't it?
That's right. And they may not like it. That stat you mentioned, 50%. You remember that at that age, you're still trying to try things out as well. It may not be your thing. You might think it's fast and furious every day, but realistically, it's not. you know. And that I think also is a factor of the retainership side of things. I think that's just the people, it doesn't click for them, that's absolutely fine. That's out of people's control, you know. But what we can control, I think that as long as we're in the right direction and we're doing that better, I mean, that's all we can do, right?
Yeah, and I think we need to get to parents, because parents at the end of the day are the ones who are deciding whether their son or daughter is going to go into the trade, and they're going to base that on the experience they had, which is disappointing, you know. So they might have had one bad service experience ever.
Yeah,
no way I'm going to put my kid into that trade, you know. So and the careers counsellors of the world, you know, we continually try and reach them, and that's difficult because they're time poor and they don't have the resources to even care or know what automotive is, you know, because they've got to know automotive, they've got to know IT, they've got to know hairdressing and dentistry and whatever. So they can't know every sector, so they don't, you know. So we've got to try and get better at making the industry sexier, and trying to celebrate some of these really good stories, because there's so many of them, you know. There's so many good apprentices and there's so many good workshops out there all doing amazing things, and it's and you know, somehow society just clings to the bad news stories because we love a bad news story, you know?
That's always how it is, right? That's what they love. But you know what, I want to go back to blaming ourselves, because I know a couple of older techs, one specifically that stings in my mind, because we were talking and I was going on about how awesome the trade was, and he started carrying on about how horrible it is, and this guy's probably mid-60s, and I know him quite well. It's about how horrible it is, you know, why people getting into it. But what he doesn't mention, he's got like 8 properties. He's got a few rural blocks. He's got, you know, 7 cars. It's like, mate, you're probably worth about, you know, 20 mil. And you're telling us about how, and the only job you ever had was being a technician. You're telling us about how horrible it is. How about you just sprinkle a little bit of the outcomes of this horrible trade, you know? Which is you not only your kids and their kids are never going to have to worry about income or finance ever again because of this horrible trade that you had to be in at a young age. Like, you know, that they get, like you said, they love the sad story side, right? It's not about the positivity of it. It's the negativity of, oh, there's so much change. And yes, there is.
And that's society, you know? And you know, it's not just auto. I'm not sure if it's a good thing or a bad thing, but all apprenticeships, all trades are around 50% retention. You know, so
that's fair.
You know, and I think some of that, it might be schools, you know, again, doing the best that they can do with what they know. You know, this particular person disengaged and they're not good for university, let's corral them into a trade, you know. So whereas, you know, we all know that you need maths, you need IT skills, you need customer relations skills, you need all these sort of attributes to be a good tech. Which I'm sure is
all this stuff.
Which is probably be the same for people who are successful at university. You know, so we have to work as a whole group or a whole industry or a whole auto community, I suppose, to try and get that you know, the messaging across.
Absolutely. Maybe that's something we need to maybe, you know, put some time in there and get some ideas out, and, you know, let's make it better. Let's be part of the solution.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And it's funny you say that. And just one thing comes to mind is we, you know, we often have, or I often sort of talk to people with these sort of ideas with think tanks and stuff, and very rarely do we actually have apprentices in the mix. You know, we should be asking them. You know,
100%.
You know, like
100%.
You know, or at least a couple. You know, because, you know, we know, well, we think we know what we know. You know, and we've got a particular view because we've got experiences and we know, you know, bits and pieces. But you know, maybe it doesn't fly with some of these generations or just different types of learners and so on, you know. So, but I agree, we've got to try and work on something. So every 1% does something, doesn't it?
Yes,
100%.
Of course it does.
Yeah, so,
you're a very wise man, Gavin.
It's the haircut.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. I wanted to mention the haircut several times.
I was about to say it can't be the haircut. I was just about to say it, but it didn't.
So, look, I mean, I'd love to be seeing you in a couple of weeks for the Garage Network Christmas drinks, but if that's not possible, we'll just have to, you know, I'll just make a pillow out of you. You know, it looks like you, and we'll just drink beer together at my place.
Yeah, I'll send you a blow up doll if you've got a room for another one.
Now, look, that's for a different podcast at a different time. But we can discuss that much further once the recording's over, and we can discuss about what exactly it is Jeff does with his blog.
Well, look, it's all light-hearted, and it's everyone knows Costa wouldn't allow that to happen, but Costa,
well, not on your own anyway.
Costa gets it, but Costa's likes to take ownership or try to. But no, Gavin, honestly, I really appreciate you taking the time out, and you know what, I'd like to catch up again sort of soonish as well. Maybe in a few months, and do this again. And obviously that's when gonna be when I you're paying me. You've sent me a new BMW company car.
Yeah.
But look, I think it's awesome. What you're doing is awesome. You've got a great passion, and I know we've had a bit of a joke because we've drunk some beers and stuff like that. But what you're doing is really good, and we, I dare say there's some other great educators out there, but you're definitely one of them. So thanks for doing what you're doing. It's a shame you're not doing it in Sydney, though.
Oh well, we'll do what we can to push across the border, and
just make it happen.
100%. So, kudos to you guys as well. So I've actually just been chipping in with the Garage Network sort of socials and that sort of stuff, and you've got a genuine community. And it's really cool to see. There's no such things as stupid question, all that sort of stuff, which is and even if it is inverted commas a stupid question, people are there to offer the right solutions. So it's I think the industry is in a good space. So I think we're doing all right. And I'm looking forward to the next 10 years.
Yeah, I'm excited for the next 10 years. I think it's gonna be a good time. It's gonna be a good time. Yeah.
Beautiful.
All right, and we'll round it out. All right.
Beautiful. Well, yeah. Thanks again, Gavin, and
Gavin,
let's do this again soon.
If anyone needs to get in contact with Gavin, let us know. I mean, he's on the Garage Network, but at the same time, if you have any questions for him or anything you would like, I'll give you his mobile number. You can call him after 10 p.m. That's when
it's in that pub toilet cubicle.
I found it on the pub toilet. Call for good time is what I saw. In all seriousness, if you have any questions or things that you'd like to ask Gavin, obviously let us know and we'll put you in touch. As long as they're they're sensible, yeah,
100%, or not.
All right, guys, thanks.
Yeah, cheers, all. Cheers, Costa. Cheers, Gavin, and
cheers, guys.
Let's catch up soon.
Thanks, guys.
Don't forget to join our private Facebook page if you are an automotive technician, and also subscribe to our YouTube and our podcast channel. They are all called The Garage Network. Thanks, guys, and see you next time.